Have you ever wondered if these really abstract, high-level philosophical rules could actually give you a concrete blueprint for how to live your life? Well, today we're diving into this really fascinating text that tries to do exactly that. It merges these huge concepts with some pretty profound spiritual applications.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? How can something so abstract actually be a practical guide? We're going to unpack one author's really unique and I'd say provocative system for using dialectics, which is a specific way of thinking to navigate everything from your own personal growth to the very structure of the universe. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll define our core tools, what the author calls the body and eyes. Then, we'll get into the three fundamental laws that really make this whole system run. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to create this powerful framework for life. All right, first things first, we got to get our tools in order. To even begin to understand this framework, we need to be on the same page about two key terms, philosophy and dialectics. Let's break down exactly what the author means by these.
Okay, so philosophy here is the big picture. You can think of it as the entire system of thought, the grand architecture, that's trying to make sense of reality and, our place in it. It's like the complete blueprint for understanding everything.
Dialectics, on the other hand, is way more specific. It's the method we use within that giant philosophical blueprint. It's a theory that's really focused on the engine of reality, how things change and connect to each other through contradiction. So, how do these two ideas actually work together?
And this is where the author gives us this brilliant analogy that makes it all just click. If philosophy is the entire body, the whole system, then dialectics are the eyes. They're the specific tool we use to see, to analyze, and to make sense of the world within that system. It's a simple idea, but it's really, really powerful.
Okay, so now let's put our dialectical eyes to work. We're going to start with the first of the author's three laws, the law of opposites. The core idea here is that everything, and I mean everything, in the universe is made of two opposing, yet totally inseparable forces.
Think about it. The author points to examples we all get instantly. You can't have light without dark, good without evil, or life without death. These aren't just separate ideas. They literally define each other. They're like two sides of the very same coin, totally unified in a single whole.
And this is where the author makes this huge leap from a philosophical rule to a spiritual conclusion. The logic goes like this. If this law of opposites is universal, and we have a visible human world right here, then its opposites, an invisible world, heaven and hell, they must also exist. It's a pretty wild extension of that first idea.
All right, next up is the second law, and this one explains the mechanics of change. It's called the law of transformation, and basically it argues that tiny gradual accumulations will eventually, bam, lead to a sudden fundamental shift in what something is.
This classic quote, which the author uses, just nails the idea perfectly. Real change isn't just one big event. No. It's the result of countless small actions, building up and up and up over time until they finally hit a tipping point.
So check out how the author applies this to our own evolution. To change your fundamental nature, say from human to divine, you first have to accumulate divine actions and qualities. That's the quantity. You just keep at it. And eventually, you hit this critical point where a qualitative leap happens. A human becomes a god.
But here's the thing. The author is clear that this law is totally neutral. It works both ways. A steady accumulation of negative or ghostly actions can, by the very same principle, transform a person into a ghost. It's all about what you're accumulating.
Our third and final law is the law of negation, and this one basically describes the engine of progress. In short, it says that development happens in a cycle where new things will always, inevitably overcome and replace the old things.
This beautiful metaphor from the text just paints such a vivid picture. Progress isn't about just stopping. It's this constant forward-moving river where each new wave builds on and pushes past the one before it. The old isn't just destroyed, it's kind of absorbed and transformed by what comes next.
And when we apply this to society, the author predicts some pretty major shifts. For instance, they argue that the traditional family model is an old thing that's going to get replaced by new ways of living. In this worldview, even relying on past experience is an old thing that just can't solve the problems of the future.
But the author is really specific here. A new thing isn't just about a fresh coat of paint. They point out that creating a new business model, like shifting from manufacturing to services, isn't truly new if the fundamental goal, making a profit, is still exactly the same.
A true negation changes the very soul of a thing. So how do these three laws, opposites, transformation, and negation, how do they all fit together? Let's pull back now and see how the author weaves them into one single practical framework for how to actually live your life.
When you put it all together, you get these core takeaways. The law of opposites teaches us that the universe is balanced. What you give, you get back. The law of transformation gives us a real path to change ourselves through small, consistent actions. And the law of negation tells us to just embrace progress because it's an unstoppable force.
And it all comes together in this one final, kind of mind-bending quote that sums up the whole dialectical approach. To truly achieve your potential, you have to let go of your self-centered ego. It's by that act of negation, of having no self, that your true self can actually emerge. It's a perfect example of the unity of opposites at work.
Ultimately, this whole framework is just one way of seeing the hidden mechanics of the universe and our own lives. And it leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Whether you agree with this system or not, what are the unseen laws and frameworks that are shaping your world?